Hey, welcome back. So last time we talked about those small micro moves to just get started on a task. Well, today we're zooming way out. Instead of focusing on tiny moments, we're going to look at your entire day. We're going to unlock a much more powerful way to plan called macro time blocking. And hey, if you have our workbook, now is the perfect time to open it up to lesson 2.2 and follow along with us. So let me ask you a question. Does your brain feel the exact same at 8 in the morning as it does at 2 in the afternoon? Or say 10 o'clock at night? I mean, of course not, right? It's a silly question. Some moments you feel sharp, you feel focused, and other times you feel like you're just wading through fog. And that simple, totally universal truth, that's the key to a much, much smarter way to manage your day. So here's the big idea. Your day isn't some flat line of energy. It's more like a wave, you know? It's got peaks and it's got valleys. And the secret here is to stop trying to fight that wave and instead learn how to ride it. You schedule your really deep, focused work for when you're at a peak, and you save the lighter tasks, or even just plain old rest, for the valleys. So what is macro time blocking, exactly? Well, it's really a strategic shift in how you think. Instead of making these vague plans like, I'll study tonight, you get real about your energy levels. You actually pinpoint when you are naturally the most focused, and then you build your entire plan around that peak performance window. The whole idea boils down to this. Plan your day in big chunks of energy. You match your tasks to when you actually have the brain power to do them. It's really about being honest with yourself, not just ambitious. And that one single principle, well, that's the foundation for this entire system.
But okay, before we can build a better plan, we have to understand why most plans just fall apart. And it's something I call the perfect day trap. It's this super common mistake of just assuming your energy is going to be this flat, predictable line from morning till night.
I mean, look at this. On the left, you've got the perfect day fantasy, right? It's just full of relentless ambition. But then on the right, that's reality. We all know that post-lunch slump. We all know that late-night exhaustion. The perfect plan is so fragile because it completely ignores these totally normal, totally predictable dips in our energy. And here is the most important part of all of this. When that perfect plan fails, who do you blame? You blame yourself. You think there's some flaw in your character, not a flaw in your strategy. So let's just be super clear about this. A failed plan is a strategy problem, not a you problem.
So the risk is pretty clear. When you plan for consistent energy that you just don't have, your plan is basically built to fail from the start. And when it does, it is so easy to feel like you're the failure. But the real problem was the system itself, a system that just ignored the basic reality of being human.
Okay, so if our energy isn't a flat line, then what is it? I want you to think of your day as having these energy windows, these specific chunks of time when your brain is just naturally primed for focused work. The game isn't about trying to create more energy out of thin air. It's about identifying when your windows are already open.
So, to put it simply, an energy window is just the part of your day where you have the most natural focus for your hardest stuff. Finding it is kind of like finding a secret superpower you didn't even know you had. So why is this so much more effective? Well, because life is unpredictable, right? A rigid minute-by-minute schedule, it completely shatters the second something unexpected happens. But with these big, flexible chunks, you have wiggle room. You can move tasks around, you can protect your high-energy windows for the really important work, and you can intentionally plan for rest when you know you're going to need it. All right, enough theory. Let's get our hands dirty. We're going to walk through how you can apply this, like right now, to map out your own energy and build a plan that actually works.
Okay, this whole process starts with two really simple steps. First, just pick a typical day you want to plan for. Second, map out what actually happens in each chunk of that day, from early morning all the way to late at night. And the key word here is brutally honest. Not what you wish your day looked like, what it really looks like. Go ahead and pause here to do that.
Okay, once you have that map of your time, you're going to add the most important layer, your energy. For each one of those chunks you just wrote down, you're just going to label it high, medium, or low. Now, this isn't about judging yourself. It's just about collecting data. You're basically becoming a scientist of your own productivity, just discovering your natural rhythm. Go ahead and pause again to get that done.
With this energy map in hand, you now have everything you need to build a smarter, more realistic plan, one that works with your brain, not against it.
So now, look at your map and identify your best chunk. This is your golden window of time where you have that high energy. This is your prime time. This is where you're going to schedule the work that you've been kind of putting off. like studying for that big test or starting that really tough essay. Pause here and circle your best chunk.
Now this is maybe the most critical step of all, turning this insight into actual action. I want you to pick just one important task, a real one, and deliberately schedule it into that best chunk you just identified. This simple act, just matching one high-stakes task to one peak energy window, it can be a total game changer. So pause the video and write that down.
And finally, look, a plan is totally useless if it isn't protected. So the very last step is to choose one small boundary, something like putting your phone in another room for just 15 minutes, to defend that peak energy chunk. It's all about making your most productive time non-negotiable. Go ahead and pause to pick your boundary. So, how do you know if you're actually working against your own energy? Well, it turns out there are some really clear warning signs that you're trying to do the right kind of work, but in the wrong chunk of time, and learning to spot them is key. Do any of these feel familiar? There's stall, where you just feel stuck and you can't even start. There's drift, where you find yourself just endlessly scrolling or bouncing between tabs. Then there's overdrive, that state of panicked rushing. And finally, breakdown, where you just feel completely shut down and overwhelmed. Recognizing your personal warning sign is the first step to getting back on course. Understanding these different states really reinforces the main lesson here. Matching your task to your energy isn't just a nice idea, it's absolutely essential for avoiding burnout and for doing your best work. It's about knowing when to push and, just as importantly, knowing when to pull back. So go ahead and pause here to finish up that last part of the workbook. So, you've learned how to plan for when you have the energy. But what about planning for how much time you actually need? Next time, we're going to tackle a really big question. How long did things actually take? We'll dive into time estimation to make your plans even more realistic and even more powerful. I'll see you then.